I'm Lee, specifically Lulele, and today I'm going to be redesigning the fossil Pokémon from Sword and Shield. Or finishing their designs, rather, since we only get their maimed halves. It's like someone promoted Sid from Toy Story to head paleontologist and said, "Here, have at it, bud." I try not to be overly extreme when I dislike a design, but does anyone actually like these? If you do, well, we can agree to strongly disagree. This one is especially egregious. Why can I see the inside meat of the bottom half? Was that not a glaring sign to the scientists that this is a perversion of nature that should not be pursued? We have 4 parts to work with: Zolt, Vish, Draco, and Arcto. As such, we'll be making 4 original Pokémon designs. Let's have at it. We're starting with the Zolt fossil part, which seemed to me like the most straightforward. It looks very raptor-shaped, and because of its head crest and the adornment on its elbows, I decided to base the design on the Microraptor. It does look like it'd be a quick little thing, doesn't it? Coming from the early Cretaceous period, the Microraptor was only the size of a crow. This Pokémon will be a little larger than that, but it will keep that slinky, swift silhouette. Microraptors were thought to have a biplane of wings on its elbows and knees, likely allowing it to glide. This means that I'll add the bolt to its hind legs as well. I also have a spiky shape at the end of its tail, as the Microraptor is often depicted with feathers there. Belatedly, as I began searching for images to use for this video, I found other fan designs utilizing a very similar shape over and over and over. I kept myself from looking at any other fan designs beforehand, as I didn't want to accidentally steal from one of them, but I suppose great minds think alike. Microraptors of a feather, you could say. Darting through the underbrush is Zolt, the seizing Pokémon, Rock Electric type. Zolt may be smaller than most evolved fossil Pokémon, but what it lacks in size it makes up in its swiftness. Although it has no traditional feathers, it's able to use its speed and electric abilities to soar through the air, taking its opponents by surprise from above. As a pack, it was known to threaten much larger Pokémon and come out victorious. I got the Za part of Zolt from one of the specific species of Microraptors, the M. zauianus, or however you say it, and it's the seizing Pokémon, because raptor means to seize or to steal. I subscribe to the idea that all of the resurrected fossil Pokémon are partially rock type because of the intrinsic process of creating a fossil. Originally, I'd think it would be an electric and flying type, gliding through the air like a lightning bolt. We need more flying types that aren't just birds and balloons. Yes, I know that birds are considered to be living dinosaurs, but you know what I mean. For the Vish portion of the fossil, the inspiration was fairly obvious. The head of the fossil looks keenly inspired by the Dunkleosteus, an extinct ancient fish that lived during the Devonian period, or around 350 to 380 million years ago. They're part of the class called Placoderms, a group of plate-skinned prehistoric fish, and the species of Dunkleosteus rank among the largest in that class. The blunt head and conspicuous teeth of the Pokémon harkens to these vicious fishes. Because of the limited fossils we found of the Dunkleosteus, we actually don't know the exact shape of its body or how long it would be. I went for a more stocky shape as it made it look more intimidating and stony. I copy-pasted the fins on its front to the rest of its appendages, which I based on the fin placement of the Dunkleosteus itself. Fish Pokemon are my least favorite to design, as I find it difficult to think of innovative ways to portray them, but having a direct inspiration helped. I didn't want it to be an exact replica, but I can't feel too guilty when Relicanth, based pronouncedly on the Coelacanth, exists. Swimming since before the first coming of Arceus, behold Dunkelvish, the plated Pokemon, rock-water type. The Dunkelvish can propel itself forward with its many fins, preying on smaller fish Pokemon as it terrorizes the waters. Rather than conventional teeth, its fangs are an extension of its skull, giving it a truly tremendous bite. With its armored head, Dunkelvish has a habit of ramming into anything that dares to get too close. This was actually the first design of the set that I did, making me prove to myself that I still have those Fakemon chops. As it turns out, practicing semi-realism and other more elaborate stylings makes the simpler style of Pokemon a lot more attainable. Next we have the Draco fossil. For this, we only get a rear end to work with. The color palette and patterns on that rear are already striking, so we just need a front end to match. Looking at the parallel spikes going down its back, I was reminded of the dinosaur Polycanthus, a species from the delightful Ankylosaur family. It's also from the early Cretaceous period. I could have done a Stegosaurus, but its plates are more petal-shaped, and it has these great spikes on the end of its tail. Our tail is smooth and flaccid. If you can't tell, I'm a fan of when Pokemon does more realistic proportions and detailed head shapes. I think it makes the design easier to imagine as a real animal, rather than just a cartoon. And yes, I realize that is extremely hypocritical of me, as my Pokemon persona is a Wooper, who has the most simple and cartoonish face. A girl is allowed to be multifaceted. I considered making this Pokemon bipedal, hunched over like Groudon, but then it looked so much like the silhouette of Groudon that I had to plant its feet firmly back on the ground. Charging forth is Dracanthus, the prickly Pokemon, rock-dragon type. Despite its uninviting appearance, Dracanthus is a gentle and docile creature, acting friendly as long as you do not stray too close to its nest. Its many spikes are used for protection. Every few years, each spike falls out and is replaced with a new one, becoming thicker and sharper as the Pokemon ages. It has a shield of bone above its back and hips, adding to its sturdy defense. I have mixed feelings about this guy. I like the design, but I also feel like my shape language could have been more unique and confident. With that said, I do really like its head. It reminds me a bit of a Tauros. The color palette is what makes it stand out, and that came pre-prepared. Sometimes store-bought is fine. Finally, we have the Arcto fossil part. Again, we only get a rear to work with. This appears to be the tail of some sort of seal or sea lion to me, with a color scheme and snowpile pattern that assures me of its ice type. I went a-huntin' for prehistoric seals for inspiration, and I found the great and terrible Pontilus. The Pontilus was a giant walrus, or a relative of the walruses, that lived during the Miocene and Pliocene epochs, or around 11.6 to 5.3 million years ago. Unlike current walruses, which have extremely long tusks for fighting, displaying dominance, and pulling themselves onto ice, the Pontilus had shorter tusks that were likely used for hunting and tearing into flesh. The hypothesized appearance of this beast strikes terror into any fragile heart. It reminds me of a leopard seal, whose name is quite apt in describing its feral and predatory nature. I kept the back flippers the same, but moved the snowy mounds. Nope, that's not a good word to use. Snow piles to the front to look like great swaths of fur and blubber around the neck. I utilized an open mouth to show off the tusks, and while I considered giving it round black eyes devoid of mercy as some sea predators have, I decided against it, as it interrupts the shape of the face too much. Fortunately, it looks nothing like this feline, which I was worried about. All of these fossil designs are more complex and erring more on being realistically proportioned, as I imagine them to be the final evolution of the usual two-stage fossils. It's satisfying to get a sweet little pre-evolution for a fossil Pokémon, only for the final evolution to be a giant monster that decimates the battlefield. Sliding into the foray is Arctilus, the polar Pokémon, Rock-Ice type. Arctilus is a savage hunter of the Arctic waters, quickly swimming through ice floes despite its bulky size. Snow collects at its mane for extra protection of its throat, and it prides itself in the snow's purity, keeping it undirtied and crystal clear. When swimming in warmer climates, the amount of snow it adorns may shrink, which can also be an indicator that Arctilus is feeling stressed. I'm not usually one to go for the walrus and seal Pokemon, but I would consider this guy for a team as long as it had a high enough speed, since rock-ice types tend to have defense issues. I think the design would translate well into the current 3D graphic style, although it would be hell to animate in the show, like most of my designs. What can I say? It's no fun watching me throw a couple simple shapes together and calling it a day. That's all the Sword and Shield fossil Pokemon redesigned. If you have a favorite or another Fakemon you want to see designed, I'd love to read your comments. Would you want to see me betray Mother Nature and redesign the fossil fusions? Let me know, and feel free to like and/or subscribe. Consider it an investment in your entertainment. See you around, Grey Duck.